16th place Queen's Park Rangers head to 18th place Oxford United on Wednesday evening, and just like Cardiff last Saturday, it's another huge fixture that could make or break our push for safety. Once again, a win and results landing in our favour could see that relegation buffer widen to 8 points, while a loss and results going the opposite way could see Rangers end the game week as few as 2 points above the drop. If it's another draw, we'll likely be heading into Bristol City on Saturday in similar circumstances. With the Yellows just 1 point behind QPR, it's also a fixture of equal significance to the home side off the back of a vital 1-0 win over Sheffield United last weekend. So joining me once again on the channel to give the opposition view is Yellows fan Joe. If you enjoy this match preview, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm good, thanks mate. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem at all. It's good to have you back. Obviously, we're here to talk Oxford United versus QPR on Wednesday night. QPR and Oxford can't seem to shake each other. Just 3 points and 1 place separated the two sides after QPR's 2-0 win at Loftus Road in December. That would end up being Des Buckingham's last match. And now 20 matches later, despite both teams enjoying a mid-season resurgence, just a point separates QPR in 16th and Oxford United in 18th. So firstly, talk me through the season since we last met.
Wow, since we last met, there's a lot been going on. Obviously, as you said, Des left not long after we last spoke. I think it was pivotal match was kind of because as you say, at that time, that felt like a really important game. And we really massively underperformed in that game, and that was kind of one of the games that really started to set alarm bells off amongst the board. That eventually led to the decision to obviously move him on, which was a big decision, very controversial. And obviously Gary Rowett's come in since, and it's obviously been a bit of a mixed bag because he got off to a really great start, and 4 or 5 games into his tenure, thinking the board have pulled off an absolute masterstroke. And then since then, it's got tricky. It's got difficult. It's been pretty horrible at times. Some of the football we've played, some of the games we've been involved in, not many spectacles in there, that's for sure. But like you catch me on off the back of obviously one of our best results. Well, by far away our best result of the season. One of our best results in the league in recent times, really, in terms of the scalp we pulled off on Saturday by beating Sheffield United 1-0. Which is a proper gritty kind of performance, kind of the performance you kind of expect from Gary Rowett teams, which we haven't really seen in recent weeks because we've not really had that nous. We've not really had that kind of housery, if you like, that you associate with this teams. We've given up leads. We've kind of crumbled under pressure, but we showed like a team that might stay up on Saturday, basically. So, as you say, like there's been a lot going on since we last met. But yeah, you catch me on the back of a pretty decent result.
And what was the change that sort of led to that result? Why did we see that sort of grittier performance?
I don't know. I think I'm not sure whether there's just like something clicked in us, a bit of a reality check that we're deep in the brown stuff after the last few results. Because the gap, which was at one point I think 8 or 9 points, we were, or maybe even 10 above the relegation zone, suddenly gets cut down to 2. You're off the back of another disappointing result at Middlesbrough, where you go 1-0 up and you end up losing 2-1, which is a theme that's kind of followed us around all season in terms of taking the lead and then not capitalising and throwing points away. And it just looked like we weren't going to get out of the rut. And then all of a sudden, I'm not sure whether, I think Cameron Brannigan coming back into the fold, he was injured at Borough. Him coming back into the team. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's like I'm still coming to terms with that. I'm still in the state of shock that we managed to pull that result off. So, I think obviously as well. I think to be fair, we managed to just drag Sheffield United into our game a little bit. And I think there was something about we didn't water the pitch or something. The pitch was really dry. They couldn't get their passing going. It's that kind of stuff at the moment. And we just, as we see, our main attacking outlet is basically our long throw from Will Vokes, who launched one in, forced a Dembele in the box, and then we have something to hold on to, and we just were able to just dig in and get it done. So again, I would love to see us maybe impose ourselves on games a little bit more. It does feel like it is just long throws into the box, very limited, small number of possession, and that's basically our football at the moment, which isn't the most ideal, isn't the most, doesn't create the best spectacle, but if we get the job done and we get over the line, then I guess the board have indicated and making the decision to obviously bring Gary Rowett in and sacking Des. But we'll see how it pans out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And not to knock you off cloud nine from the weekend's result, but QPR and Oxford have both picked up just 8 points in the last 10. Only Blackburn have fewer with 7. So what went wrong after that promising start for Gary Rowett?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I mean, I think you could look at it and think, well, he came in at the perfect time. We had a few very winnable games. We started with Cardiff and then Plymouth, and we got 2 wins there, and that maybe gave us a little bit of momentum. I think obviously we just looked a bit more organised in the first few weeks, but I think it's the style of football where things are going well. It's all well and good, but if you're not picking up results, there's nothing to fall back on. The football is just not good to watch. And I think honestly, like January was a bit of a difficult month. Maybe you could have. I think we made some decent acquisitions. I think Helek at the back is a good signing, and Matos in midfield has been good. But we could have done with a lot more firepower up front, I think, and that's come back to bite us a little bit at times. We've looked a little bit blunt up front. But I think it's probably just a return to the mean, really. Like we're not really. If you look at our squad, we've got some decent players here and there, but we aren't really we're not really equipped for the level. Our recruitment in the summer wasn't great looking back. We haven't been able to bring in enough players that have been able to rise to the challenge. But and it's probably just a bit of a return to the mean. And then I think Gary's football is just not that great on the eye. So it's when the results start to turn, it's kind of easy for the fans to turn as well on the manager, because there's just nothing there. There's no real attempt to play football. At least with Des, we tried to play football and we failed. Now we're not trying to play football. We're just we're trying to win long throws and and that's basically, and we score goals off set pieces. But look, if it gets us over the line, then again, I guess that's a vindication. But it's been difficult at times, and like if you'd asked me on Friday or Saturday before the game on Sheffield United, I'd say there's no chance of us staying up, because it just doesn't look like a team that's got the necessary results in them. But again, one result can kind of change everything. So change your whole mindset. So, and that's kind of what's happened after what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who will cause QPR problems on Wednesday night, and where can Rangers get at Oxford? Obviously, this time round, both Dembele brothers are available for each side, having both been injured in the previous leg.
Well, it's interesting you bring up, because Dembele's had a really difficult. Our Dembele, Siriki Dembele's had a really difficult season. He's brought in the summer. At our time was our record signing, our sort of marquee signing, and he's never really been able to get going through a number of different factors, mainly injury. He's not really been available as much as we'd like, and they struggled really to get back into the team and find some rhythm. But obviously got the winning goal on Saturday, and obviously got his first goal a couple of weeks prior against Watford. So he's in a decent vein of form. Hopefully that will see him start to build. But say at the moment the team isn't really built for the attacking players to really thrive and flourish. But he's obviously in a decent vein of form. We've got a couple of goals. Really, like our top players, our top performers this season, and I think if we hadn't had these, then we would have been down ages ago. Is Jamie Cumming in goal and Kieran Brown at the back, who've been able, again, Cumming pulled off an unbelievable save against Sheffield United at 1-0 on Saturday. Kieran Brown is just consistently just an absolute rock at the back for us, whether it's left back or centre back. Probably play left back on Wednesday. And Ben Nelson coming in as well, who's been injured for a lot of the season on loan from Leicester, has given us a little bit more flexibility at the back, which has been useful. And obviously Cam Brannigan in midfield as well is a player that just makes us tick. If the lineup comes in and Brannigan's not in it, it sort of immediately strikes fear into your heart. But he was back on Saturday and performed really well, and is fighting through. He needs operations and things, but he's fighting through the painkillers and all sorts to try and get him through the rest of the season. And that's kind of the character he is, and those are the kind of characters you need in a relegation battle. So, my praise kind of stops there when it gets to the midfield, and then you don't look at the attack, because we're not really the most potent of teams. But as I say, Dembele has been able to find some form. Plaqueta is just he's very quick. Can sometimes, I think technique is lacking at times, composure, but he is very quick and can cause problems. Mark Harris up front is, has only scored like 5 goals this season. It's a bit of a, he can take some stick at times, but he does work hard up front. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if we hadn't had Cumming and Brown, God knows where we'd be.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, before I get your score prediction, I'm going to ask the toughest question of this preview. Will Oxford United survive relegation?
God, I don't know. I think it's the game on Wednesday is really important for us. I think it's been kind of the one in the calendar that we've kind of been looking at for a number of weeks and thought this is where we've got to get something. A little bit less pressure after, because I think we all assumed we'd lose on Saturday. And this was the game we had to win. Maybe it takes a little bit of pressure off, but I still feel it's significant. We've got some tough teams to play. Leeds is coming up soon. Sunderland, although maybe they might rest a few if their playoff position is solidified by the time we play them. But yeah, this is a game we've got. If we get a result on Wednesday, I think I'll feel good about it. If we don't, then it kind of drags us back in. It's a lot riding on Wednesday. Like I say, I'm still on a bit of a cloud 9 after Saturday, so I'll probably say, yeah, maybe we'll just get over the line. If you'd asked me before then, I'd have said no chance. So that just shows the fickle football fan I am. And I guess post Wednesday, we'll see what the result is, and then I'll give you a different answer maybe on on them. But I'll say maybe just about at the moment.
Sounds good. All right. Well, Joe, it's been great to have you on again. Let's round off with your score prediction.
I'd love to say I'm in a positive mood after Saturday, so I'll say we'll maybe nick it, but it won't be a spectacle. It'll be maybe a low-scoring game. I'll go for another 1-0. We've won our last couple of home games 1-0, so I'll go for the hat trick of 1-0s.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Joe, and all the best after Wednesday night.
Nice one, mate. Thank you.
Huge thanks to Joe once again for joining me for this one. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter via the link in the description down below. So, QPR and Oxford seem to be kindred spirits this season, particularly over the last 10 games. The difference is they have 2 home wins from their past 3 games, and they pulled one out of the bag on Saturday when it was needed against considerably harder opposition. Before the international break, some fans were looking at this as part of a comparatively easier run, but 2 games later, it's looking far from it. Obviously, compounding the difficulty of our first away league trip to Oxford in 26.5 years is the fact that QPR officially have no striker options available, with Alfie Lloyd re-injured on Saturday afternoon. That means up top, Cifuentes has a big decision to make. Does he deploy one of our many tiny 10s? Does he opt to start his makeshift sub centre forward Benny? Or does he play a total wildcard and give Emerson Sutton a senior debut and a go up top? None of those are exactly ideal options, but that is the hand that we're playing with right now. Outside of that, I'll say exactly what I said before Cardiff. We just have to find a way anyway to win. I've seen some people say they'd be happy with a draw. I guess that's been enhanced by Oxford's scalp on Saturday, but a draw does very little for our current situation, and I'd hate to be heading into playoff hunting Bristol City at home needing a victory. So then, score prediction time. I do have some confidence in our backline after Saturday. Oxford have actually only scored more than one just once in their past 12. As Joe says, that is a lot from set pieces, long throws. So if we stay on top of that, I'm hopeful of a clean sheet, but I just can't see us scoring, so the most optimistic I'm willing to go is another 0-0 draw. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below your own score predictions and thoughts ahead of this one. If you've enjoyed this preview, you're new to Hoopsa, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time for my match reaction. Come on, you Ars.